What's good, everybody, man? Thank y'all for tuning into this video, man. For y'all who's new to the channel, man, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, man. Welcome to the gang. Welcome to Slum Gang. You feel me? And we about to be reacting to a video expounding and speaking on the BRICS nations. So for those of y'all who don't know what the BRICS nations are, the BRICS nations are a conglomerate of nations of Brazil, India, Russia, China, South Africa, and it'll be 6 more other countries that will be adding on to the BRICS nation as of 2024. And there would be like BRICS is just pretty much all these nations coming together to demolish and take away and get rid of the American currency. So the reason why we're reacting to this video is because we need to understand and figure out what will happen if BRICS goes through and these other nations crash the American dollar. What does that mean for Americans? So let's dive into this video. Let's see what's going on. Let's see what BRICS nation could potentially do to the American population and financial structure. So without further ado, let's get into this video, y'all.
BRICS summit, and Western leaders are quickly realizing the unipolar world led by the United States is long gone, and the future is most definitely a multipolar world where smaller countries around the globe want 2 things. Number 1, their voices to be heard, and number 2, to be treated fairly and equally. 2 weeks ago, leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa met for the 15th annual BRICS summit to discuss plans on how this new political alliance will change the world. You might think that's an exaggeration, but changing the world and breaking free from Western hegemony is the exact mission of the BRICS alliance. And as you'll see in today's video, they are quickly making this dream a reality. The big news from this summit is BRICS will be expanding in January 2024 and welcoming 6 new countries: Iran, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Argentina, Egypt, and Ethiopia. The expanded BRICS network will comprise of 11 countries and have almost half the world's population and produce a third of the world's GDP.
Expansion is historic, reflecting the resolution of the BRICS countries to unite and cooperate with other developing countries.
Wait, let's hear what he just said. I gotta recap that because that last part he was going too fast.
Argentina, Egypt, and Ethiopia. The expanded BRICS network will comprise of 11 countries and have almost half the world's population and produce a third of the world's GDP.
Expansion is historic, reflecting the resolution of the BRICS countries.
11 countries. And half of not United or American, but half of the world's population. Bro, even if just imagine what that'll do to the American economy.
To unite and cooperate with other developing countries, meeting the expectation of the international community and serves the common interest of emerging markets and developing countries.
China is the big winner from this BRICS summit as it has secured massive deals with both Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has officially commissioned a nuclear power plant to be built by the Chinese, and Iran has awarded a $2.7 billion airport expansion project to China. But pay attention, as I'm going to reveal the true meaning of BRICS right here. Iran will pay for the entire project in crude oil, completely bypassing the use of the United States dollar for this transaction. This is exactly what the BRICS alliance represents. Countries trading and making deals.
Okay, so they trading goods, you know, back in the olden times, because let's say Africa, for example, to make an iPhone, like it's a lot of mining that goes into it. And that's the resources of the country is literally the only currency they have. So if the American dollar rules and America has pretty much in America taken away most of the gold, most like you're not gonna get real gold a lot of places unless you actually buy gold, like bricks, or invest your money into gold. Like if you go buy a gold chain and stuff like that, like chances are most of it, not all of it, but most of it isn't actually gold. But if America is taking away the value of gold and silver and stuff like that, stuff that prior to today, to the dollar, we was trading as currency, then that no longer has any value unless you have the currency to pay for it, right? So they're no longer like all these countries, they like, nah, forget that. Iran, they got oil. So what they gonna do is they gonna sit there and they're gonna trade oil as money. Even in BRICS, the BRICS dollars and the BRICS money is backed by gold. That's why it can literally finish the American dollar, because the American dollar isn't backed by anything. Nothing. Literally just the belief that you believe it's worth what it's worth.
Deals using their local currencies, or in this case, their valuable commodities. This is the simple reason why the ever-expanding BRICS network remains the biggest challenge to the United States-led world order. China's President Xi Jinping even took a direct shot at the US government's global actions. Here is the exact quote from a speech at the BRICS summit. But some country, obsessed with maintaining its hegemony, has gone out of its way to cripple the emerging markets and developing countries. Whoever is developing fast becomes its target of containment. Whoever is catching up becomes its target of obstruction. But this is futile. As I have said more than once, blowing out others' lamps will not bring light to oneself. It's quite the statement from the Chinese president, who is using an ancient Chinese proverb to help people understand the reality of what is happening around the world. The United States and its Western allies have largely ignored the needs and concerns of smaller developing countries for far too long. It's exactly why in the past decade, over 150 countries around the globe have signed up to participate in China's Belt and Road Initiative. While the United States government spends its money maintaining over 800 military bases around the world, China has been investing in life-changing infrastructure projects for countries around the globe. It's exactly for this reason why at this year's summit, over 40 countries expressed interest in joining the BRICS alliance. However, entry in the alliance is limited. Only 6 new countries were accepted, so let's break down each new member and share what they bring.
Oh, how? Like what? Now I'm confused. Y'all, I mean, it's like like how y'all don't want like 40 other countries that's interested and want to join BRICS, but they all can't join. That's crazy. What does that mean? Like, I don't know. What's going on that these other countries can't join the BRICS? But this is supposed to be a fight. I don't know. So, and I'm gonna be honest, I could say something that I ain't even about to say or shouldn't really delve into, but I'm gonna just leave that alone. Anyway, that's another topic for another conversation. But I'm just confused on why the other 40 can't join. There's only the other 6 that was accepted. Like this kind of sound like a fraternity, a gang. It's starting to sound like something like that. But I don't know. Let's get back into it.
Bring to the table. Number 1, Saudi Arabia. Arguably the most important new addition to the alliance is Saudi Arabia, a key trading partner of the United States for over half a century. The Saudis certainly aren't going to stop trading with the Americans anytime soon, but it's becoming increasingly clear they are very interested in building closer relations with China and the BRICS community. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Education just instructed all public and private secondary schools in the kingdom to implement Mandarin language classes. It seems like the kingdom is getting ready for a lot more business deals with China, as they also just announced a $3.6 billion deal to buy 10% of China's Rongsheng Petrochemical, which will result in the Saudis supplying the Chinese company an additional 480,000 barrels per day of crude oil. Number 2 is the United Arab Emirates.
Yo, China is coming off. Like, but didn't they send in 19 to America. Like, what didn't that come from? Like, bro, I really think we gotta keep our eye on China, yo. They working in a whole nother way that, bro, they trying to take over the world, bro. If you know anything about what goes on in China, like with the people, like, bro, they got facial recognition already. Like, you walking down the street, the cameras that record everybody every day, like, already recognize your face type shit. They got all that, bro. They even got cameras that if you jaywalk or if you do any, like, the camera facial recognizes you, and then you'll get your letter of your citation in the mail. I'm not with what China with at all. So y'all got to keep your eyes open, man. Let's keep our let's all right. Let's see what's going on now.
Similar to the Saudis, the UAE is also a top oil producer in the region and already has close ties with China. The UAE is a natural fit for the alliance as it manages over $1 trillion in its sovereign wealth fund. The UAE will be pouring new capital into the BRICS-controlled new development bank and funding various projects throughout the BRICS alliance. For the UAE, joining BRICS represents diversity.
BRICS already got a bank set up for this shit. Like, they already got a bank. That's crazy.
As the country already has close ties with Western countries and now can focus on building new relationships in the global south. Number 3 is Iran. With Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran joining BRICS, the organization now controls 50% of global oil production. And with this amount of control and power, BRICS can now completely bypass the US dollar and trade commodities for infrastructure projects, exactly like Iran and China are doing in their new airport expansion project. Or they could use local currencies instead. This is a major benefit for Iran, who is actively sanctioned by the United States and restricted from using the US dollar. BRICS has given Iran a new lifeline and more ways to survive US sanctions. Argentina.
What? But that's another thing I noticed why the BRICS community, like those people, why they wanted to build, I said the community, like why BRICS countries and stuff, why they wanted to build the BRICS nation shit, because they really, it's like when America runs the American dollar and the American dollar is prevalent around the world. It's like if you in America, if you an American and you're in America and you are accused of a crime or charged with something or something like that, they control your finances. So you don't have no finances because the American government can freeze your assets and your accounts at any given time. And that's what the BRICS nation don't want. They don't want America to use their power of control of the money as a force to control nations, people, or anything, because that makes it illegal, wrong, and unjust. Like if it's a crime and a criminal, yeah, I understand. But let's say you got money invested in American banks, or let's just say you got business with American companies, and you in Saudi Arabia or something, and then America want to get at you about something. Guess what they're gonna do? But the first thing they're gonna do is freeze your assets, freeze your accounts, they're gonna make sure you're poor and you struggle, and no one man or country should have all that power. In my opinion, I feel like I understand why they building this on that basis, because I don't feel like America should be able to have the control to have anybody, let alone a whole country, in a situation like that, or have that type of control over people. You get what I'm saying? So I understand it, but let's get back into the video.
Argentina is number 4. and joins its neighbor and original BRICS member, Brazil, in the new alliance. Argentina's currency has been in trouble for years, and to reduce the trade risk associated with the dollar, all exports from Brazil will now be conducted with the Chinese yuan, which is once again another massive victory for China. While Argentina doesn't bring the deep financial pockets the UAE does, it contributes in other ways, most importantly, minerals and raw materials that will be valuable to the BRICS group in the future. And finally, Egypt and Ethiopia will follow in the footsteps of South Africa.
See, these countries are trading for resources. Resources, that's what they're using as currency. Not, I gotta pay a certain dollar amount for, if I want to buy oil from an oil company who's in a country that don't have like, let's say Arabia, Iran, you know what I'm saying? They don't have good farming land. So it's like you can trade, and let's say you live where it's hella farming, but you don't have, I don't know, you need oil. I don't know. And they got oil, and this is like you can trade to do business with each other. But if both of y'all ain't got no money, but y'all got resources, y'all fuck. Y'all got to go try to get some money to do some business with a motherfucker. I got 1 million pounds of oil, but I can't offload the shit because I got to sell this motherfucker to make some money to do business with the big one. I could just tell like a country that need this shit. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking in like street hustling terms, because that's how the American foundation or the governmental foundation was built, off of hustling. Like, hustling was not off of hustling. I take that back. Hustling was literally made off the business and the way American government and the governments do business. So niggas that hustle understand the American dream. So I'm just I'm just seeing what they are doing from a hustling standpoint. Follow me. You know what I'm saying? Just walk with me. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there together on the understanding, y'all.
Africa and become the second and third African nations to join the BRICS alliance. 50 of the 54 African countries are already participants in China's BRI, so it makes sense that more African nations will follow and join an alliance with China. China has given smaller African countries a voice and a future in this new multipolar world through China's Belt and Road investments. Even during the summit, China announced new measures to further help the African continent. China will be allocating more resources for Africa's industrialization and agricultural production, as well as training.
One thing, the biggest problem I got with Africa and Africans, bro, they gonna hop on whoever giving them money dick. Africa is a thriving country. Well, certain parts of Africa, because Africa is a big continent with different parts to it. So certain parts are thriving way more than other parts, right? And I understand that, and I'm all for thriving and growing, right? But those parts that are thriving, they're not owned by Africans. The thriving, the things that's make the businesses and places that's making these parts of Africa thrive are not owned by Africans. Africa is deeply being colonized. You get what I'm saying? Like, they're not only trying to be colonized by the whites, they're also being colonized by the Chinese people. Chinese people really got a foothold in there. But before the Chinese people got in there and put their foothold in there, the Africans was rocking with the Americans, with the colonizers, Caucasians. They was rocking with them. But they just got tired of rocking with the colonizers and them giving them crumbs, but not enough for them to feed themselves. You know, kind of like how they do us in America when we go to work. We got to work like slaves to survive. You know, when we go to work, they give you enough just to come back to work. They don't give you enough to motherfucking make sure you can live. You get what I'm saying? You can survive and be straight. They just give you enough to make sure you come back the next week, the next 2 weeks, to get the next check. That's all they give you enough for. You feel me? So it's the same structure here. It's just different. There is more snakish. We here. They got the control here. We already are in line. They trying to get these Africans to fall in line. Africans are just as we are. They letting them have it. Here, yeah, we got all this resources. We got all this. Here, we got the minerals to make the iPhones. We got the minerals. We got the man work and all that. And all y'all got to do, y'all ain't got to give us much. They get tired of that, and then now they want to go and fuck with the Chinese people because the Chinese people gonna give them way more. You feel me? So I don't know, man. We're gonna keep watching, man. Let's get into it.
20,000 African students in vocational schools. But to be honest, Egypt and Ethiopia are joining the BRICS alliance primarily to break away from the control of Western-dominated financial systems. The strength.
Now, this is Bible stuff. Why is only Egypt and Ethiopia joining BRICS? What happened to the other nations in Africa? That's Bible stuff, but if you don't know, you ain't gonna know. But if you know, I'm with you. We know. We know. They don't know, but we know. You know what I'm saying?
Of the US dollar and high US interest rates have increased the cost of Egypt and Ethiopia's imports, and both countries have already agreed that it will pay for imports from China, India, and Russia in their respective local currencies. The Egyptian president said his country joining BRICS will help raise the voice of the global south, while Egypt's finance minister said he will focus on investment and export opportunities that involve local currencies. One of the continuous themes you've probably noticed with almost every BRICS member is a strong desire to move away from trading exclusively in US dollars. In fact, Brazil's president, Lula da Silva, stated this before the BRICS summit: "I dream of having a common currency for our countries to use in transactions so that we could be independent from the US dollar. I dream of BRICS having its own currency, like the European Union's euro." Many countries throughout the global south are rooting for a new BRICS currency, potentially even one that is backed by gold, to challenge the role of the US dollar in global trade, or one day even take over the US dollar as the world's foreign currency reserve. I mean, even Saudi Arabia is reducing its US Treasury bond holdings, as its holdings fall to the lowest level since December 2016. But to be completely honest, I think we are many years away from this type of breakthrough. While it will certainly remain a strategic long-term goal, the short-term goal will be reducing dependence on the US dollar, reducing the risk of being sanctioned by the US government, and increasing trade in other currencies. But there is another hidden value of the BRICS alliance that is going to make the world a much better place. Although the 11 BRICS countries have different languages, cultures, religions, and values, BRICS members are joining together through a common bond and paving a pathway for better dialogue and peace. Let me give you two examples. Over the past few years, India and China have been engaged in an intense dispute over their respective land borders. But when President Xi and Prime Minister Modi met in South Africa, the two leaders of the world's most populated nations agreed to de-escalate their border tensions. The situation on the India and China border is extremely complex, as the two nations share a 3,400-kilometer border. But this is what happens when world leaders meet and dialogue is encouraged. Solutions to complex problems can be found. Another great example is Egypt and Ethiopia, putting their differences aside and solving their own territorial disputes over a dam built on the Blue Nile River. Both nations have been in a stalemate for 2 years, with both sides refusing to engage in dialogue. But following Egypt and Ethiopia's invitations to BRICS, the countries have now resumed peace talks. As South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said, BRICS has embarked on a new chapter in its effort to build a world that is fair, the world that is just, a world that is also inclusive and prosperous. Everyone, we've learned a lot from the 2023 BRICS Summit, with the most important lesson being the future of our world will be more.
That shit sound demonic. I ain't gonna lie to you. That shit sound like it is the devil. Again, a lot of y'all not gonna understand, but for those of y'all who do, if you know, you know.
Divided. The 6 new countries that will join BRICS next January controls the supply chains of some of the world's most valuable resources, like crude oil and raw earth minerals. While Western critics will argue the BRICS members are too diverse and too different to actually work together and get along, we should never forget the will of the entire global South. Countries in South America, Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Southeast Asia, for the first time in many, many decades, are finally having their voices heard and finally being given equal opportunities to have a chance to rise and prosper. This is what the BRICS Alliance represents, and it's why I still remain bullish on its long-term possibilities. Everyone, thank you for making it to this point in the video, and now it's time to let me know what
I. Yup. Y'all see y'all. Y'all see that Brics, right? So I feel like that shit's funny. I don't feel like we need to be, we need to be worried about it. But also, yeah, it's smart, man. I understand when I'm talking about you don't yeah, what is liability? Just Google it. It's sweet, man. Asset is something that grows in value. Liability is something that decreases in value. It's just thinking start doing that, and then you'll be able to this first come to the world. You get what I'm saying? For those of y'all that new to the channel, man, thank y'all for the interest. You know what I'm saying? For the game, you already know, man. You got something. I got 2 other channels, man. I got my Swim World Sport, and that channel. But I also got my Swim World Hip Hop News channel. Y'all don't know. I'm gonna leave those links in the description. Y'all just make sure y'all go subscribe. Hit the button if y'all get on my notifications. Show your love to the boy, man. We come to the family. And I want to tell y'all, man, thank y'all for watching me. Good talking you got here. You know what I'm saying? But till next time, y'all know you should get big 36
Price to rock this ice, tell me what you niggas know.